Hello, I'm here today with David Hansen, the CEO of MabVax Therapeutics. Mr. Hansen, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
So we had a pretty profound response from our last interview. We had over 100,000 viewers view our interview. So just based on the demand from viewers, they had asked for a second interview. So I thought today would be a good day to reach out and ask some additional questions to you that many of the viewers had asked. So I guess I'll just fire away if that's fine by you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
So you have some clinical data due before year end. Can you describe the compound you'll be reporting data on and what data may affirm as it relates to this compound and for your clinical pipeline as a whole for that matter?
Well, sure. So one of the most important antibody discoveries that's a basis for our leading clinical programs is an antibody that we have designated as our 5B1 antibody. It's a fully human antibody that we recovered from a group of patients who were being vaccinated against their solid tumors with a vaccine that was developed at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. And we've taken this antibody into phase 1 clinical trials in 3 formats. The first is the antibody itself as monotherapy for treatment of very late-stage pancreatic cancers. And the second, an extension of that study, is in combination with first-line chemotherapy in newly diagnosed patients. It's in the combination trial where we're continuing to enroll additional patients and to further examine what the impact is of the antibody when added to first-line patient treatment. In large studies using standard of care chemotherapy in first-line patients for pancreatic cancer, one normally sees about a quarter of the patients achieving a partial response. That means their tumors have shrunk, with another quarter achieving stable disease. In the limited number of patients that we've treated with our low dose of antibody, along with first-line chemotherapy, we saw 2 of 3 patients achieve a partial response, with the remaining patient achieving stable disease. Now, these are pretty encouraging findings. They're also very early findings. So we want to see what happens with more patients, and so that's what we're doing, is we're enrolling additional patients into that trial now as we speak. And we should see results from these additional patients somewhere near the end of this year, maybe even early first couple weeks of next year.
Okay.
We've taken the approach that we're going to treat very seriously ill patients that have a very poor prognosis. So we need a more potent version of our antibody. To that end, we've attached our antibody to a well-known clinically effective nucleide, radionuclide. The objective is to use our antibody as a targeting agent, shepherding the radioactive substance directly to the tumor, binding to the cancer cells, and then the radioactivity kills those cells. Now, we've enrolled a few patients into this phase 1 clinical trial, and we're about to enroll more. The goal here is to see if we can establish a safe dosing margin for these early patients. We had a very good amount of interest from potential partners on this radioimmunotherapy approach. And the first thing they always want to see is safety. So that's what we're trying to establish right now. And again, this is now a second compound that we should report additional results very near the end of this year. And we've taken this development strategy that we've established with our 5B1 antibody program, and we begin with a naked antibody and establish safety and tolerability. We then extend the development effort by coupling it either with a diagnostic agent or with a therapeutic agent to the antibody to enhance its effect. And we rely on the antibody then as our targeting vehicle. Now, we've recently announced the filing of a patent on a second set of antibodies discovered from these same kinds of immune responses from patients that have been vaccinated. So now that antibody is following this same development pathway that we've established with our 5B1 antibody. So that has enhanced our development pipeline.
Okay, thank you. That's definitely helpful. Another question that was brought up by a viewer was, you've engaged a well-known biotech investment bank to assist you with prospective opportunities, be it licensing, a partnership, or even acquisition. Can you fill us in about the decision to engage an investment bank and how that process is going? And just lastly, also, should we expect to hear anything on this front, say, before year end?
Okay. So just after mid-year this year, we sat down with the board of directors and discussed our disappointment that our market cap didn't seem to reflect the value of our company as we perceived it, and the programs that we're working on and the progress that we've made over these last 18 months. We had counterparties that were interested in potential transactions, but we weren't able to bring them to the table. So we reached out to a variety of advisory banks, and we were thrilled to bring Greenhill and Company on board to help. Now, Greenhill has provided a seriousness, a structured process, and a timeliness to our partnering efforts. They've helped us evaluate inbound interest as well as surface additional potential partners. So we're making excellent progress there. And strategic transactions, they always take more time than you expect, so we've always been very careful about providing guidance on timing. So, but we will have more to say, but I have to say it'll be a little bit later.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, and then our last question is, as I highlighted earlier in this interview, is that we had over 100,000 people view our last interview on YouTube, and it seems interest in MabVax is increasing and increasing dramatically. How do you describe to someone, say, watching this video and learning about MabVax for the first time, or someone who's a shareholder, why you, the CEO, are so excited about MabVax and why the company seems to be standing at a major stepping point as it relates to valuation, given if the data you report is positive? You know, it seems logical to assume that the valuation may step up and may step up significantly as some of these, data readouts that you have in the near future would be positive.
Yes, we certainly hope so.
Fingers crossed.
That's exactly right. I'm sincerely appreciative of the interest that people have shown in MabVax and in our previous interview. And I personally have never been more excited or optimistic about our future than I am now. I helped found this company 9 years ago, and it's been a long journey to this point. But we've always had a vision and a commitment to work on new therapeutic and diagnostic products to really treat some of the most difficult to treat solid tumor cancers. And in the last 18 months, we entered the clinic with a therapeutic antibody, and we reported positive results at the American Society of Clinical Oncology meeting in Chicago of this year. We entered the clinic with a new PET agent based on our antibody, and reported very positive results at the Society of Nuclear Medicine and Imaging Conference in Denver of this year. And we've taken all those results and used them to design our radioimmunotherapy project, which we entered the clinic in June of this year. So we've made a very significant amount of progress, and we've reported positive results on that progress. So we're very excited about that, and I think if we reflect back and look at the excitement that we've seen from potential investigators and potential collaborators, we really do feel like we're on the right track. We've also taken some very significant steps to streamline our company, to make us as capital efficient as possible with a focus on clinical programs and producing results that we think will demonstrate the value of our company. If an investor looks at comparable companies that have similar accomplishments over a similar time frame of, say, the last 18 months, you have to come to the conclusion that the company is undervalued. We believe that as we push these clinical programs toward the end of this year and the early part of next year, and we report out all of these new data, we continue to think that that will be a real positive input to the value of the company. And as we continue to go down the track over the remaining part of this year, looking towards the types of strategic transactions that we've talked about, we think that helps validate our approach and brings a new and additional investors into our stock.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, for my, I see, diversified, portfolio of clinical development. You see an investment bank that's well regarded, that's looking to, possibly bring in a third party, or potentially even could, an acquisition could be on the table. Who knows? That's very exciting to me. And the way that these companies usually work in the small cap space, for those of you that I know have called me and also emailed me, is it's not like you see a slow, gradual improvement. Is you see a sudden spike in a company upon success, and you've got some significant catalysts here in the very near future that I think could lead to significant value appreciation. And the value that you talked about in terms of your market cap getting in line with some of your peers. I mean, we're talking like even a 10x puts you right in line with your peers, which I know that seems like a substantial leap, but companies have done that historically. Just to say that. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Hansen. I really appreciate your time today with us, and look forward to prospectively interviewing you for the future based on the feedback we get from this interview, which I'm sure will be positive and encouraging as the last one was. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ross. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.